Japan has become a workplace for many international folks from across the globe. According to the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, we are expecting the number of foreign workers to hit around 1.82 million by October 2022. A good chunk of these workers come from Asian countries like Vietnam, China, and the Philippines. So, how do these people land jobs in Japan? In this video, we will let you in on the real stories of people who have managed to find work in Japan. We will cover all sorts of ways to job hunt, from using social media to joining the Japanese job hunting system after getting a degree from a Japanese university and beyond. The goal here is to give you a clear, no-nonsense look at what it's really like to seek work in Japan and offer some handy advice. Our Synodos Asia team members, North and Kagari, will be your tour guides for this video.
My name is Bokhodir. I'm from Uzbekistan. I graduated from bachelor's degree in Tsukuba University in Social and International Studies.
Nice to meet you, Bokhodir-san. Could you tell us about your work experience, your job hunting experience here in Japan?
Well, right before graduating university, I started for job hunting in Miami. That's how I asked. I tried to gain experiences of my friend, who is also Uzbek, and I got experience. I asked advice from him about how he applied, and he told me about that he applied through Miami. And one of the reasons why I decided to go for in a Japanese style is, since I'm in social studies, during my 4 years of studies, I studied mainly about how people work in Japan, working conditions in Japan. And since in 4 years in my university, I did part-time job for in Japanese companies. I started to be curious. Is it true that what I'm studying and in reality? So when I just tried to apply for jobs through Miami, it is pretty basic. You need to apply first, send your CV or resume, in Japanese template, and then they will ask you to participate in Kaisha Setsubekai, a presentation of company. It is very mandatory. And during that period, it's already started your screening, how you behave during presentation. And it should be you should be in a suit, in a plainish, but it shouldn't be suit. Shouldn't be a very super expensive. It should be the cheapest possible suit. And the color of the suit as well plays a major role. And one thing is that as a foreigner, when I apply, it's pretty basic. If I'm a foreigner, they will first receive my resume, and they will ask me to participate in presentation, then first interview, and then fail automatically. Because I'm a foreigner.
Wow.
I after taking 40 or 50 my try attempts.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty easy because I applied during COVID, and it was always online, so it was easier. And then I asked straightforward, do you guys accept foreigners, or are you gonna fail me because I'm a foreigner? Then there's a couple of them accepted, because you're a foreigner, we cannot accept you.
Wow.
Because you might quit very fast. And I was okay, thank you that you saved my time. So it took me a month to find a job, to land, but they asked me a couple of certificates related to job, because I applied it not to social science area job, but to IT actually.
Why did you go to the MyNavy channel, not other channel like LinkedIn or other kind of, maybe I think for a Japanese student they have a channel how to call that, for maybe it's a public organization like that. Just so I remember that. Why did you choose MyNavy?
First I tried Glassdoor, not like LinkedIn, but when I looked for requirement, it was like 3+ years at least for entry level. I was like, yeah, I don't fit in, and I didn't do any IT related tasks even, and I didn't know about even how to write basic hello world. But what I started from university is like, even though you don't know anything in that area of your job, Japanese companies are able to accept you and teach you like the way from the very beginning. Maybe this was the main reason. I wanted to enter the IT sector and then change job after 1 or 2 years to better companies, better pay.
Yeah, as I explained from looking through the LinkedIn, there are so many IT companies want to hire foreigner, but actually when we study social science, we will have no idea how can we fit to that job. Oh, so interesting that they will teach us after that. And actually, you mentioned about the Japanese Chikasu system, so it will be a great experience for you because I don't think much foreigner will go through this channel, because the system is just maybe best fit for Japanese students because of the time period and also the language. And can you share your experience in Japanese job hunting system, like the time period when will you apply for the job, and also how to you mentioned this about the interview process, like that, how you can handle or prepare for the interview in Japanese style?
Well, Japanese, the CV or resume template is pretty basic. So you would just be sending mainly one same resume again and again, almost non-changing. If you make one ideal universal one and choose area where you want to work, then it will be same resume again and again. Because what I noticed is it, like Japanese HR wouldn't read your resume much. Like only like the first part, like your name, your country, and which university. That's it. Pretty much that's it. Because I experimented a couple of times, like writing random thing like in between, and they still were calling me for interviews. I was like, okay. And all the other parts are pretty strict. The way you be like, I didn't go to face in the initial stages. It was online, so I turned on camera and would be like sitting. I had experience with some Japanese students like who were applying for a job get pissed off. Like, can you just give us some basic information to your companies? Or sometimes HR would be late for like Setsumekai, and some of them would say like, "Hey, why you were late?" And they would just keep them on. Yes. And regarding like later stages, like second interview, third interview, it would be a lot easier. The final interviews. But in my case, the CEO of the company straightforward said like you need this kind of certificate, like Java in my case, Java nodes at least, and IT passport in order to prove that I know my job. I have some certain Japanese skills, language skills, and that I actually can work in Japanese environment. And the main thing is also the cultural thing, like whether I'm able to follow Japanese culture and custom. And the more or less it was okay. Like I expected the company to be like foreigner friendly as much as possible, which they were, but everything came out after.
Yeah, because even we can speak fluent Japanese and study here, spend a lot of time here and learn that culture so well, but sometimes there will be cultural differences and also the mindset of colleagues or boss toward foreigner. It will be an obstacle. Oh, and Yeah, and you mentioned this that you ask them directly that they accept foreigner or not. So you can make a decision later. It will not waste your time that much.
Like I understand why Japanese companies pretend to be nice
Yes.
because they cannot give bad PR about their
Yeah.
companies. But one thing is good that helped me during the process is just go to their website and see how well it's done.
Mhm.
It's good.
Better to know that company first. And what about the time period? Because the semester in Japan and in the international university is so totally different.
Yeah. You should start like 1 year before you graduate. And one thing is in Japanese style, if you get hired between April and August, it means you got like best spot. Like, and from September till March of next year, it's gonna be like leftover spots. So companies already knew, so you weren't able to get like good companies, and now they can comment on you like, oh, well, you couldn't get hired so far. It means something wrong with you.
Yeah, but most foreigner and international students, they will graduate from September and March.
Yes.
Wow. And they know that we have less bargaining power at that time. Wow, interesting. Also, like you mentioned about the difficulties here, even you know Japanese and their culture. Are there any most difficult thing that maybe Asian people may encounter beside how to call this? Isn't it too straightforward to call like this nationality discrimination like that? Any other problem that they may encounter for Asian people?
So far, I didn't notice a lot because even in my current company, they hired one Indian guy from India. And he came and worked it, although he quit after 5 months. Yes, but no, I didn't notice it. But what they get interested in is like whether you work at part time in Japanese like environment and how many years you work it. In my case, I didn't say to them that I work whole 3 years in one sport, but I was also working two jobs part-time jobs simultaneously. So this got like curious why I have been quitting my job every year, changing job, which means like, is he or she is gonna quit job after 1 year or not? So working in Japanese environment during university years is also a big push for you to get hired in Japanese companies.
So it sounds to me like better to have part-time job during your day in undergrad school.
Yes.
Wow. And you need to start early from the third year, maybe, so you need to plan so well. And I think for foreigner or Asian people study here, they may not think that they will have a chance to work here after that. So it's very difficult to them to plan like systematically like this. How did you do that?
I actually didn't have in mind like a plan but I had the necessity of working part-time. Right after came to Scuba in 2017, in September I went for a part-time job and I started working part-time because if I don't get paid my fees, I will have to go back. That's why I didn't actually have that in mind. But it actually helped.
Wow, so it's an advantage to have part-time here. It will be our work experiences when applying for the job here. Wow, interesting. And you mentioned that the working period here is the real issue. That the company wants us to stay with them longer and longer. And what can you, what could you talk with them during the interview? Do they mention this so strongly, or can you negotiate a bit like that? Because you work in the tech IT company, it may be more flexible than the old side of it.
And this was one of the questions like how many years are you going to work for us? And saying like 10 years or 20 years is the best answer. And what they also ask you is, are you gonna make you work here for a certain period of time and then open your own company? This is also like a kind of a tricky question because taking companies' data and going is bad for them. So even if you're gonna say like maybe 5 or 7 years is still okay, but it's very important question for them, like just for checkbox.
I see. So better to answer like you stay within as long as possible. So, what would be the other difficulties do you think that Asian people will encounter in job hunting in Japan besides of the language and culture like that?
If they don't get used to Japanese culture and Japanese thinking, like thinking from perspective of Japanese, they're gonna encounter problems, big problems. The Indian guy who worked for 5 months in my company, he would try to think like he's still in India and everything works like in Indian cultural way. That's why he was having a problem like to adapting to my company. And what Japanese company expects from employees is to be universal, to be able to work anywhere in any project. This is what they expect. If you be universal, you still get paid low, but after maybe 7 or 8 years, when you go to a very high position like Bucho, head of department, then you get paid well. That's my boss said.
But actually, for a foreigner, their point of view in working in Japan is kind of different. Because my friend think, oh, Japan company, they are so high-tech, high in technology, but so their working style should be international as well.
Well, one recent history that I heard from Uzbek community is that during interviews they asked him, "Are you able to use fax?" And he said, "Wait, what?" Like, and they started to laugh at him, like, "Oh, you don't know even how to use fax, or how come like this?"
Whoa!
Yes, like this.
Oh, interesting. Also, maybe they use some different tool and program here. And I have heard that so many technology in Japan, they already import from abroad, but they already localized. Have you encountered some of them in working in Japanese company?
Fortunately, no. Not so.
Because I have heard that they try to localize the R and Stata program to ECR program like that. Or Japanese, yeah, all function is in Japanese. Could you share some helpful, useful tips for people who want to apply job here in Japan? Yeah, especially for the Chukatsu systems.
Have a lot of friends during university in order to exchange information. Like if you have friends who could be ready to exchange information, that would be really helpful. Even not just for Shukatsu, but during university years too. And another thing is to adapt to Japanese culture, thinking from the perspective of Japanese. Don't just blame Japanese companies and think about from their perspective that if they're hiring someone, if you would hire someone for your own company, would you be okay with them to quit your job like every once in a while, like in a short period of time, or not? And for those people who apply through LinkedIn, recruiters also do their best in order to get them hired. And if you quit your job after 1 year, but the company invested in a lot of money, and it would be blamed by a recruiter, like why you giving us such kind of candidates, employees, if we're gonna lose money. Another thing is that get certificate for GLPT N2 at least. If you don't have at least N2, it would be very bad. Company will not consider your placement. If you have N3, and you write down in your resume N3, it's gonna hurt you actually instead of helping you. So at least N2, preferably N1, and try to know what kind of certificates would be useful for you. Even certificates like Microsoft Word or Excel would be helpful, because especially Japanese companies, they love certificates. I don't know why, but they love certificates. It's kind of like a proof. Although they're not going to use it, but still.
Yeah, it's an empirical evidence.
Yes.
To prove your abilities.
And one of the tips is that try to ask a sample, like a contract that they're going to handle you before like signing a contract. In my case, I got hired around April, end of April or May, and when they handled me contract in March, the way the contract was made and what was said like in my navi was two different things. So I got lied. But I couldn't say no already because my visa was ending and I couldn't extend it. So I had to go with it. In my thought, like okay, I'll be okay with this, but unless they teach me IT how to. But if you don't want to risk or you don't want to go to another area other than your major, it's better to ask whether they're going to lie to you or not. This is a major tip.
Alright, that's a useful tip. So, what come after that? There should be any suggestion for Asian people? What do you think they need to improve or adjust to working and applying for the job here? Yeah, maybe how they can improve language or attend the courses online like that. How can they choose?
In my case, I took classes back in Uzbekistan 1 year, but it was like super chill classes of Japanese. I learned a lot of Japanese from my part-time work. First, I couldn't speak much, but I was listening how people were talking Japanese. So 1 year I was just listening, and then from second year I started to push myself to participate in conversations. That's how I started to learn, actually.
Yeah, it's learning from the real usage.
Yeah. Because if you learn Japanese from books or online classes, it's gonna be like book related. But what foreigners are gonna encounter problem is slang.
Yeah.
Japanese slang. Even though you study from books, if you don't know slang, you're gonna be asking what are you speaking of?
Exactly. But I also learned from the fundamental textbook like in no Nihongo like that. And it's very fundamental.
Yes.
When I encountered the real situation, they didn't use the same sentence.
And try to have a Japanese friends. It's very difficult to be friends with Japanese, but try to have at least one or two, maybe that.
That would be all for today's talk. Thank you so much. We gained a lot of experience from you, and I hope everyone, all of the audiences here, will get some tips and inspiration to working and applying for the job here. See you in the next video. Bye.